their followers doubt. One voice shouts above the crowd, the message of political cow. Conspiracies abound inside their twisted sound. One voice shouts above the crowd, the message of political cow. Political cow, political. Their lies are on the ground. Fake news is breaking down at the sound of political cow.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's been a little while. What can I say? Day job got the best of me. I don't know. No, it didn't get the best of me. It just took up some time. But I'm back now, and we're into day 6. You'll see it in the news ticker down there. Let me know what you think of the news ticker, by the way. Thought I'd do it visually rather than just a streaming set of text. New layout. Tried to streamline things here a bit. But we're into day 6 of the government shutdown. And it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight, but is this okay? Is this really bad? It depends on who you ask, but what do you guys think? Are you impacted directly by this? Are there services you're depending on? Do you work for a government organization and are impacted by this? I'll open up the call line later, and we'll take some calls from people, see what where people are at with that. I'm really interested in hearing what people's feedback is on that, but I wanted to start off with some social media highlights of interest, and then we'll dig into Karoline's and her most recent press briefing, which they're always lively, but the discipline to stay on message and to keep it within that time frame that they've always set, it's always either right around 30 minutes or 45 minutes, never anything in between. And it's very disciplined because they have guests come in, very regimented. That may just be Trump style. I don't know, but the level of, being very schedule oriented, I haven't seen that really from past administrations. It's something pretty unique. Let me know too if the music's coming in too high. Try to lower that volume a little bit. But without further ado, let me remove my fancy background. If I can figure out where that button is. All right, there we go. And I'm going to have to get a little bit smaller here because I'm in the way. How do I make myself smaller? Oop, wrong thing. Don't want to make that smaller. Me. Get me. All right, there we go. All right, I'm tiny. There you go. All right. Let's start off with Ilhan Omar. Just we'll listen to her thoughts. This is on MSNBC here within the past couple of weeks.
Here's, a president that is always unhinged, always deranged, always creating chaos and division. And he seems to have a real obsession with anyone that is an immigrant in this country that is not of European descent. You don't hear him talking about the accent of his wife and, the fact that she came here as an immigrant or any of those things, or the fact that she gets to have an opinion even though nobody elected her into office. But he has an objection to a person who does serve over 700,000 constituents in Congress, who's literally elected, has the same certificate as he does. But I think for me is I feel embarrassed for him, because in these attacks, what he does, and I think with the likes of Nancy Mace and whoever that.
So it's always very personal. It doesn't really matter what's going on. So the context here is you recently had those events with Charlie Kirk, extremely sad, unfortunate, happened. You have a looming government shutdown. There's a lot of very important things, but her line of discussion, the desire to bring identity into it, I don't like where she takes every single conversation over and over again. But I don't know, maybe somebody will do. Let me check the chat real quick. Anybody like what she's talking about here? Anybody all for it? We could open up the lines. You could let us know about it a little bit later. But ooh, somehow it filtered out the chat. Bring the chat back. Okay, there we go. Trump should end it because Republicans... Okay, talking about the government shutdown. Trump should end it because Republicans control Congress. Yeah, that's for sure. What's my perspective on the shutdown? I wonder, just my thoughts on the shutdown, if this actually might be an opportunity to get the last bit of the portions of the government they weren't able to kind of scaled back on with the big, beautiful bill. I wonder if this is an opportunity to do that now. I don't know. Anyway, more Omar coming up in a little bit. This one was kind of sad to me. This one kind of hits me a little bit. You look at some before and after images. You think of progress, women's rights, feminism. You look what was there 40, 50 years ago and what's going on today. I'll leave you all to be the judge. I saw this recently and it gave me pause and just made me think a little bit about what's going on. We don't want to see that guy. And here's Omar again with her latte.
But there's also just a lack of understanding that I am seeing with the American public on what those freedoms actually look like. You'll have people who say you shouldn't have a Muslim in Congress. I have First Amendment protection to practice whatever religion I want. Two, people will say, you advocated for the likes of Tucker to get off TV. Yes, with advertisers. But when you have the government itself saying, I'm not going to renew your license unless you get this man off the air, that is a violation of someone's First Amendment right.
That's what the First Amendment was written for.
Yes.
It's the government.
Yes, and I think that's the part that people don't understand. It's the government, right? People were upset with the likes of...
Honestly, guys, I don't know if I'd be able to go up the escalator and speak so quickly without falling backwards. So I'll let that be kind of impressive on its own there. But Don Lemon too. What's his deal going on these... I don't know, outings with various representatives? I think he's realized that he has a very slim base that he needs to continue to work with here. But again, you hear the type of talking points and the discussion that Omar's having. I don't think any of it's really constructive. It's part of that thought process that a lot of people have, where they need to continuously fight. We need to fight for this, fight for that. And it's kind of nebulous. It's what are you guys fighting against? Of course, Trump on that unfortunate day during the election when he was in Ohio. He stood up and held his fist in the air and yelled, "Fight, fight, fight." He was telling people like, no, don't give up. Like, don't be disheartened by this. There was an actual event related to that. So I kind of understand, but generally speaking, there's a continuous need to continue the fight. You hear Harris's concession speech, and she would say, "The fight continues." But shouldn't we, like, at some point finish? Like, shouldn't something be done? It's this perpetual fight that's becoming problematic. Are there Republican examples of it? I don't know. Oh, this was a good one that we covered recently. So the president of Colombia had his visa revoked, guys. I got some short clips on it on my YouTube channel. You guys can check it out later. But he literally went from the UN after he gave a speech, went out into the streets in New York, grabbed that megaphone and started shouting things out during a pretty disruptive protest that was underway, blocking the roadways, one of the Palestine protests. And so he was out there and he actually encouraged our military to disobey orders and to not follow through with what the president was asking, and to not, help bring some order to many of the cities that are having some troubles with crime. It's pretty astonishing stuff, right? The president of another country coming in and doing something like that. But of course, his visa's revoked, so I guess he's not going to be doing that for very long. Oh, this one always gets me.
Because they're over here.
So freedom of speech, right? We talk about it quite a bit, but what's going on in the UK? I don't know if anyone in the UK is on the line here, but the entire anything on social media seems to be subject to criminal penalty here.
Given life of Riley off the tax us hard-working people earn when it could be put to better use. Come over here with no work visa, no trade to their name, and sit down.
So right now he's reading a post that somebody made onto Facebook. He's reading it word for word, and he's going to give them an actual prison sentence for that post.
And DOS. And then there's more people being put out homeless each year. They get top band priority on housing. You went on to say that you did not want your money going to immigrants who, quote, rape our kids and get priority, end quote. Although you said that you had no intention of carrying out any act of violence, there can be no doubt that you were inciting others to do so. Otherwise, why post the comment? You expressed remorse, but by that time it was too late. For the offence of publishing written material in order to stir up racial hatred, there are sentencing guidelines which I must and will follow. The maximum sentence is 7 years imprisonment.
So a maximum sentence of 7 years in prison, right, for a Facebook post, guys. What is going on in the UK?
Judgment, this comes close to harm category 1. However, for the purposes of this sentence,
harm category 1, harm category 2, there is so much unbelievable detail here. It's a little ridiculous. Why? I'm just astonished. Why would somebody spend the time to actually come up with all of these specialty I mean, you imagine the group of individuals that got into a room and said, hey, let's think about all of the ways that we can punish somebody for their Facebook post. Category 1, if it reaches, I don't know, if it hits this criteria. Category 2, if it hits this criteria, and they go to your, prison for 7 years, for 8 years, whatever it might be. This is crazy stuff to me.
I will treat you as falling into category 2, since there was no direct encouragement towards activity which threatens or endangers life. However, you fall towards the top.
Every time he says, however, it is like he's talking down to him. It just gets me.
Of Category 2. For a Category 2A offence, the starting point is 2 years imprisonment with a range between 1 and 4 years custody. In mitigation, I take into account your plea of guilty, for which you will receive full credit of 1/3 following your earlier admissions. I take account of the contents of the references from your mother, friend and employer. These can only be of limited value in the current circumstances, as can the contents of the pre-sentence report. I take account too of your expression of remorse, your lack of convictions which are racially aggravated, that you are in employment and you have a partner and family. In passing sentence, I take into account the purposes of sentencing, in particular in relation to this case, punishment and deterrence. As is recognised on your behalf, this offence is so serious that an immediate custodial sentence is unavoidable. Would you stand, please? The sentence that I pass has been reduced by 1/3 to reflect your guilty plea.
The crime is so serious, right? And what is it? It's a Facebook post. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Well, at least I do. We've talked about immigration. How many different channels have talked about immigration on TV, legacy media, on YouTube, wherever? People are having discussions about it. But this one Facebook post this person put out there puts him in prison for 2 years. And he's saying that he's actually reduced it by 1/3. So there you go. Radioed British man sentenced to 2 years in prison for Facebook comment. All right, now, I don't know. There's just something with this guy that it's not just disingenuous, but I feel like there's just something lurking behind some I don't know, some villain. I don't know. But let's see what he's up to now. He's always offering up free stuff. There's a new ad that he put out there, I don't know, the past week. Let's see what he's got going on.
Go further toward the Vienna model. We'll have to go beyond the market. We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing.
To a post question.
Ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social housing projects that offer good homes and strong communities to everyone. We won't decommodify housing overnight, but we know what we have to do, and we have history to guide us. Go further.
I don't know, that smile just gets me. It's just something fake about it, right? Anyway, he goes on. This is like today, I believe, where he's got even bigger ideas. He's actually got some dollar figures that he wants to associate with the different programs and things that he wants to do. What is it here, the total? He reveals that he will save New Yorkers $8 billion by offering free buses, free rent, and free childcare. All right, here we go.
To afford the more than 12% increase in rent-stabilized apartments under this Mayor Adams administration, and struggle to afford what has now grown more than $20,000 a year in childcare costs. And so what we are releasing today is the cost saved calculator, where you can go to Zahran for nyc.com/calculator and see just how much each of these big three items will save you in your lives. Because when it comes to free buses, each rider will save over $2,000 a year. That's $1.3 billion a year for all riders. When it comes to universal childcare, we're speaking about $22,200 a year, which together is $5.5 billion for every New Yorker across this city. And when it comes to a rent freeze, we are speaking about $1,750 saved every single year. And together that amounts to more than $1.7 billion in its first year. These are the figures that add up in the lives of New Yorkers. These are the figures that together would save the people of this city more than $8 billion.
Somebody said in the chat, you're criticizing his smile. Well, what a joke. He just looks like he's one of those guys that has the biggest smile. You even see the little, like, I don't know, like a little starburst coming off of his teeth, right? But then there's like something evil lurking behind it. I just get the worst feeling from this guy. I don't know, but so the $8 billion he's going to save New York, where does that come from? Well, it's just the nature of the economic model that we do have in the world, in society. The only one that has proven to function, although it is a bit dysfunctional. It's the best thing that's ever been invented by humans, to this point at least. So you can either print more money or you can tax people to get more money. So the only two levers that government has to increase revenues. Each has a consequence, but that's going to drive a lot of people out of New York. And if y'all are listening in New York and you're planning on leaving, if you come to Texas, please don't vote for this stuff. Or, hey, why don't y'all move to Mississippi or something, or try California. But that's what's going to happen, is a continued exodus from these types of areas to Florida. A lot of people are actually going to Florida, Texas, and other places. All right, last one here.
And grass.
AOC's, I should probably wait, or not wait, but put an alert on next time AOC has a live stream, and we'll just kind of like watch it together. I don't know. It's some good stuff.
Point is that they are scrapping and grasping at straws because they have nothing else. Laugh at them. Stephen Miller is a clown. I've never seen that guy in real life, but he looks like he's like 4'10". And
so somebody's like getting on me about talking about Mom Dami's smile, but like she's calling Stephen Miller at 4'10". I mean, come on.
And he looks like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10". And he looks like he is so mad that he is 4'10", that he's taking that anger out at any other population possible. Like, laugh at them. Laugh at them. Yes.
So I'll have to look it up, Ham. I'll read your comment here. It's a good one. It's a good comment. Why should billionaires not pay the overwhelming majority for our social programs? Is $1 billion not enough? And in fact, they do pay the overwhelming majority of taxes. The top 1%, I think well over 50% of all revenue taken in comes from the top 1%. And then, of course, it's a graduated scale from there. So that's already the case. They do. In fact, I think there's about 1,000 billionaire families in the United States, give or take a few dozen here or there. And if you were to take all of their wealth combined, I think it comes into like 1.7, 1.8 trillion. Maybe it's getting close to 2 because my data point is a couple years old now. But if you just repossess everything, if you just take it from them, take all their money, that 1.7 or 2 trillion, you'd run the government for less than 1 year, maybe 3/4 of a year or something, right? Then what do you do? What happens at that point? So you got to, I don't know, the economic model or the level of sustainment of the policies that AOC talks about or Mom Dami's talking about, I don't think it's fully thought through in terms of the ramification of it. Because if you literally take everything that those 1,000 billionaire families have, you can't even run the government for a full year.
They are dangerous. Yes, we're here to be strong for one another. We need to expose the lies. We need to never let off the gas when it comes to protecting one another, exposing the lies, documenting things. We're seeing this too, right? And so I think this is just I think it's very important to be able to hold multiple things at once. And we've seen this work in other cultures. We've seen this work in other countries. Yes, the resistance to authoritarianism is very real. The risks of abuse of power are very real. But one of the most powerful cultural things that you can do to a...
So important. She mentioned, yeah, there are risks, but she just kind of like glazed over it because, I mean, anybody just go Google what a National Socialist is and you'll see the risks right there.
Political movement that is predicated on the puffery of insecure masculinity. That's what this is about. This isn't, people talk about toxic masculinity more than it, like, let's put that to the side for just 1 second. This is about insecure masculinity. And one of the best ways that you can dismantle a movement of insecure men is by making fun of them. By having secure men who aren't afraid of successful people around them, who are good dads, who have strong values. Also,
so she describing like a lot of Republicans now
participating in that as well. So like, that's what I have for that. And also someone said, short kings are great. Absolutely. I'm not here. I want to absolutely make sure that I talk about that. I'm not here to make fun of anyone's anything, but the way people over...
All right, I'm gonna pause it just because Ham's making another interesting comment here. I appreciate you. Appreciate everyone being engaged in here. So I'm gonna just read this real quick. Hey, get back here. It's moving. Give me a second. The comment moved on me. Okay, if we had the same income equality from 50 years ago, each household would have 40,000 more annually. You're absolutely right. And I've talked about this before, and I need your guys' help on this. Like, I really need your help to do something about this. A lot of the income inequality is now driven by labor arbitrage, and a lot of it, to me, began late 90s, early 2000s, when the massive outsourcing started. It started with manufacturing, right? And then it stepped into services, IT jobs. Now you have global capability centers where all kinds of engineering, mechanical engineers, structural engineers, scientists, AI specialists, all kinds of roles, STEM jobs, if you want to give them a class. STEM jobs that we've told millennials and that we've told Gen Z, go pursue these degree programs, go take on that $100,000 debt to go to a school and take on these STEM programs, you know, really work hard at it, and there will be a lot of opportunity waiting for you. But now we're actually taking that opportunity away and shipping it to these global capability centers offshore. So the H-1B visa thing that Trump did is just one step on it. But going back to your comment, Ham, what has happened over time is that wages or wage growth has been suppressed. It has not kept up over time with where the stock market has gone, or if you look at senior leadership or executive salaries versus, I guess, everybody that's below that tier, there's an exponential difference that's happened over time. And it's because of this dynamic of labor arbitrage that's happened over the past 20, 30 years now. That needs to be changed. We need to tell our Congress people that we want there to be some sort of tariff or tax or some structure in place that U.S.-based companies that derive revenue from the United States cannot disproportionately send jobs that were based in the U.S. To these global capability centers. And it's a national security issue too, because as we're bringing back manufacturing, because hey, you want to make antibiotics in the United States, there's certain things you want to make locally. As the manufacturing comes back, likewise, you want to have thought leaders in the United States to actually make those innovations, right? All of this is interesting because it's characterized under the America First, umbrella of things. Like that's what it's part of. But in all honesty, these are actually liberal ideals that I'm talking about here. This is what a liberal would have pushed for 5 to 10 years ago versus the conservative perspective of, hey, free markets, let free markets correct themselves over time. The challenge we have, though, is that the system is a little broken now. And so we need to make these tweaks and these adjustments. Like I'm talking about adjusting to account for this labor arbitrage that has really hurt a significant portion. It was the middle layer, but that middle is starting to grow, right? And it's pushing people up to the top, or it's pushing people down to the bottom. It's become pretty problematic. Anyway, thanks for the comment, Ham. Got me going there for a minute.
Or compensate over their own stories is what I'm talking about there. So thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. Shout out to our short kings. Someone said not short king, short troll. That's correct. There's a difference. Let's see.
All right, so I'm gonna have to put a notification on the next time she goes live somewhere. It looks like that might have been Instagram. Is that Instagram? Looks like it. And maybe we'll just all kind of watch it together. But guys, let me know what you think of the news ticker.
To afford the more than 12% increase in rent stabilized.
See, it was like the ghost of Mom Dami there. It just kind of popped up on us. But let me know what you think of the news ticker down here. Doing it visually versus just a little scroll at the bottom. I thought it looks a little bit nicer. Maybe I should post that as a video onto itself. I don't know. Would you watch that just with some music overlay and some highlights that kind of flip every few seconds? I don't know. All right. Let's get that off the screen. All right. So a lot's going on. The best summary for many of the events of the government shutdown, latest updates with Ukraine, China, whatever it might be. A lot of that stuff comes out in a very, very short period of time during these daily briefings, or excuse me, the White House press briefings, the ones that are televised here for us. So there was just another one today. We might be seeing more and more come up pretty soon, but I'll make myself small again. Let's watch and think about it together here. Oh, I didn't put my live goal up. So this is right before the thing gets started. All right, there we go. Got the live goal going. All right, I'm going to try and scan forward here. Sorry, I was trying to get that goal set up. Let's see. When Ducey comes in, you'll know it's getting pretty close. Where's Ducey? I don't see him yet. Oh, okay. Maybe Ducey's already seated. So the screen's turned on. All right, come on, guys.
Meeting alongside. We'll begin with a.
All right, I'm sure she's going to walk in any second now. So a lot of early footage. There we go.
How are you? Glad you're so excited to see me today. Alrighty. Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Monday. Let's get to it, and we'll begin with a few scheduling announcements today. President Trump will be hosting the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney tomorrow for a working meeting here at the White House. On Thursday, the president will host his 8th cabinet meeting alongside his incredible team. Also on Thursday afternoon, President Trump will host the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb, for a working meeting here at the White House. The president also wanted me to relay his congratulations to Japan for electing their next prime minister, a highly respected person who also happens to be the first female to hold the position for our great ally. While President Trump continues to negotiate peace deals, meets with world leaders, and celebrates the 250th birthday of our United States Navy, as you saw he and the First Lady do just yesterday, Democrats, unfortunately, are continuing to play political games, and we are now in day 6 of the Democrat federal government shutdown. Millions of American federal workers are under enormous financial stress as a result, wondering how they will pay their bills and take care of their families. If the Democrats do not vote to open the government tonight, federal workers will not receive their next full paycheck. Additionally, the special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children will run out of federal money very soon. This program provides vouchers to buy infant formula, fresh fruits and vegetables, and other healthy foods for low-income families. It can be easily fully funded if Democrats simply vote tonight to reopen the government. Also, our incredible military service members who risk their lives to preserve and defend our country are now working without pay and will miss their next paychecks if this Democrat shutdown does not end tonight. The Republican-backed clean and nonpartisan funding bill fully funds this important food aid program, gets our troops paid, and reopens the government. So all of this begs the question, what is the Democrat ongoing shutdown truly about? The sad truth, we believe, is that the Democrats intentionally shut down the government and are inflicting this pain on American citizens to try and demand free health care for illegal aliens. Of course, this is an indefensible and truly radical policy to be in favor of, let alone to use as the primary reason to shut down the United States government. So the Democrats and their allies are desperately lying about their true motivations. We have to set the record straight with the facts so the American people understand what's really at play here. House Republicans passed a clean and nonpartisan funding bill to keep the government open and ensure our troops and other hardworking Americans are paid. Every single House Democrat except one voted against this clean and nonpartisan funding bill. Senate Republicans have subsequently tried to pass this same clean funding bill 4 separate times, and they will do so again tonight, to fully pass it to be sent to the president's desk for signature. And the president is ready to sign this bill to reopen the government as soon as it is sent to his desk. Yet every single Senate Democrat except 3 have voted against this clean and nonpartisan funding bill. The Democrats' current position is that the only way the American government can reopen is if illegal aliens can get free health care. Don't take my word for it, just look at what's inside of the Democrats' proposal to reopen the government. Their funding proposal would result in nearly $200 billion spent on health care for illegal aliens and other non-citizens over the next decade. To put this in perspective, $200 billion is enough money to fund the entire children's health insurance program, which provides health insurance to low-income children and women. Under the Democrats' proposal, the millions of illegal aliens who improperly were granted asylum and paroled under the Biden administration would once again be allowed to receive Medicaid benefits. It does not end there. The Democrat proposal would also require Medicaid to pay more for emergency care provided to illegal aliens than it does for American patients who are disabled, elderly, or children. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. The Democrat Party has unfortunately closed our government, costing Americans their jobs, threatening our military readiness, harming our economy, and causing chaos, all to help the illegals who broke into our country. Instead of holding illegal aliens accountable and removing them from our country, which is what this administration is trying to do every day, the Democrats want to give them the free benefits paid for by the American taxpayer. Democrats in 2025 are for illegal aliens first and Americans last. This is the reality we are unfortunately facing right now in Washington, D.C. President Trump and Republicans will not give in to these radical demands. The president and Republicans have a sacred responsibility to serve and protect the interests of their constituents, the American people. That's why we are backing a clean and nonpartisan funding bill with no strings attached to reopen the government. Democrats should do what they did 13 separate times under Joe Biden and vote for this exact same type of funding bill. Now the Senate will vote tonight for the 5th time to reopen the government on the 6th day of this shutdown. All we need are an additional 5 Democrat senators to end this madness and vote for the clean funding bill to reopen the government. If you are an American watching at home right now, call your Democrat senators and tell them to do the right thing and end this shutdown. With that, I will take your questions. Here in our new media seat today, we have Elizabeth Mitchell from the Daily Signal. Elizabeth, thanks for being here, and please kick us off.
Thank you for having me. I have two questions. First, President Trump told reporters yesterday that firings of federal employees are taking place right now. In which departments have people already been fired from their federal jobs due to the shutdown?
The president was referring to the hundreds of thousands of federal workers who have been furloughed as a result of this federal government shutdown, both here at the White House and across the entire federal government, at agencies across the board. There are federal workers who are staying home. Many of them work in the White House. You know them. Some of them sit just behind me at those desks. They are unable to show up to work right now because the Democrats chose to shut the government down. And so we're already, unfortunately, seeing the consequence of this. And then, of course, the Office of Management and Budget is continuing to work with agencies on who, unfortunately, is going to have to be laid off if this shutdown continues.
And Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the FDA was required by federal law to approve the new abortion pill last week. Is the administration considering steps to undo this in light of requests from pro-life Congress members and organizations?
I think Secretary Kennedy and the Department of Health and Human Services, as I addressed in the briefing last week, were following the law, and we will continue to do so. As I said last week as well, it's not an endorsement of this drug by any means. It's just a law that they were following. Jennifer.
We heard you say that you want people to call their Democratic senators. Is the president calling Democratic senators himself? Can you say what he's doing today to resolve the shutdown?
Yep, I was just in the Oval Office. He was on the phone with Speaker Johnson. He's also spoken with the Senate Majority Leader, who are in touch with, of course, moderate Democrats and Democrats across the board, who we understand hopefully want to do the right thing by their constituents to reopen the government. So the president is being kept very well apprised of the ongoing shutdown on Capitol Hill. And of course, his position is very clear. There's nothing to negotiate, just reopen the government, and then we can talk about all the important issues facing our country.
So he hasn't called specific members of Congress?
Not to my
himself?
knowledge, no.
And then on the Affordable Care Act, is he willing to give more, to share more on what he'd like to negotiate on the Affordable Care Act later? Is he willing to say specifically what he would like and when?
But look, the president is definitely committed to fixing and improving our healthcare system. You saw it again last week when he had one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world coming into the Oval Office and promising to lower drug prices by 200, 300, 100% in many cases for various types of drugs for American patients. That is a huge fix to a broken system that has been ripping off the American people for far too long. So the president's very committed to this. But right now, we need to reopen the federal government, and the president is remaining very firm in that position. Catherine.
If the vote fails in the Senate today to reopen the government, would that trigger layoffs?
Look, again, we hope that the vote will not fail because this administration wants to reopen the government. We don't want to see people laid off. But unfortunately, if this shutdown continues, layoffs are going to be an unfortunate consequence of that.
Is there a timing for when that would happen?
Well, look, we'll see how the vote goes tonight.
And can you confirm, is the White House floating a proposal to cap Obamacare subsidies by denying them to new enrollees?
I have not seen a proposal like that. Emily.
Thanks, Caroline. The president said yesterday he was considering a phase 2 approach to Venezuela. Is the president considering U.S. boots on the ground or any kind of support of overthrowing Maduro?
I won't get into any specific proposals that are being considered by the president and his national security team, but I think we've been pretty transparent and clear in the administration's view of the illegitimate Maduro regime, and the president has taken very unprecedented, tough action to end the illegal trafficking of illicit drugs into our country from Maduro's illegitimate regime.
Caroline.
Danny, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. The French government has collapsed again for the fourth time in a year. And I was just wondering if there's any concern in the White House about the kind of ongoing political crisis there. Any thought about whether the President Trump's good friend, President Macron, should either call elections or even resign over that?
Well, I can tell you the White House and the National Security Council are very much aware of this situation, but I think it would be imprudent of me to weigh in on French internal politics from the podium, so I will reserve comment on that. Behind you, yes.
What is President Trump's expectations for talks today and I guess this week in Egypt? And is there a new timeline that the president is giving all sides to reach an agreement?
Yes, there are technical talks happening right now in Egypt amongst Special Envoy Witkoff and Mr. Kushner, as well as their respective parties from all sides. What we saw take place on Friday, and I have not commented on that from the podium yet, is truly remarkable. You've seen all sides of this conflict agree that this war needs to end and agree to the 20-point framework that President Trump proposed. It's an incredible achievement, and the administration is working very hard to move the ball forward as quickly as we can. The president wants to see a ceasefire. He wants to see the hostages released, and the technical teams are discussing that as we speak to ensure that the environment is perfect to release those hostages. They're going over the lists of both the Israeli hostages and also the political prisoners who will be released, and those talks are underway, and the president is very much on the ball and is being apprised of this situation.
A Sunday evening deadline. Obviously, the negotiations have extended that, I imagine. What is that new deadline? Does the president have a time frame in mind to see this phase implemented?
Well, the Sunday evening deadline was to hear back from Hamas on the proposal one way or another. And of course, on Friday, Hamas put out a very clear statement in the president's view that they accept the president's framework, and that's why those technical talks are now underway. But again, we want to move very quickly on this, and the president wants to see the hostages released as soon as possible. Steve.
Expect those technical talks to last, Karoline?
I don't want to draw a red line up here, Steve. Of course, it's very important, as I just mentioned, that we get this done quickly. That's how the president's team feels, so we can get some momentum, get the hostages out, and then move to the next part of this, which is really ensuring that we can create a lasting and durable peace in Gaza, and ensure that Gaza is a place that no longer threatens the security of Israel or the United States.
What do you expect to be on the agenda for the president's meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada tomorrow?
I'm sure trade will be a topic of discussion tomorrow, and all of the other issues that are facing both Canada and the United States. I know the president looks forward to having that discussion with Carney in the Oval Office. Caitlin.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions. On the layoff of federal workers, potentially, the president said yesterday that Democrats will be to blame if federal workers lose their jobs. Historically, though, in past shutdowns, workers have been furloughed, but they have not been laid off en masse. So wouldn't that be the president's call to lay people off?
As I've said repeatedly, Caitlin, this conversation about layoffs would not be happening right now if the Democrats did not vote to shut the government down. And as I also said last briefing as well, we are $37 trillion in debt, and the government is not receiving any cash. So someone has to look at the balance sheet and be good stewards of the American taxpayer dollar. And layoffs are an unfortunate consequence of that.
First term, for example.
Well, as I'm telling you now, this administration is focusing on checking the balance sheet and ensuring we're doing the right thing by the American taxpayer. And again, these conversations about layoffs would not be happening in the White House today if not for the Democrat shutdown. And they have a choice to change that. They have another opportunity tonight to do the right thing to reopen the government. Joey.
Judge over the weekend. Sorry, my second question. A federal judge over the weekend that the president had appointed to the bench in his first term in office basically argued that he could not deploy other states' National Guards to Portland. Basically said that it was untethered, his argument, to what is actually happening on the ground. Which local officials in Portland have said that the National Guard is needed there?
With all due respect to that judge, I think her opinion is untethered in reality and in the law. The president is using his authority as Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Code 12406, which clearly states that the president has the right to call up the National Guard in cases where he deems it's appropriate. And if you look at what has happened in Portland, Oregon, for more than 100 nights, I was talking to our law enforcement team about it this morning, for more than 100 days, night after night after night, the ICE facility has been really under siege by these anarchists outside. They have been disrespecting law enforcement. They've been inciting violence. We saw, again, a guillotine rolled out in front of this federal building. And so the president wants to ensure that our federal buildings and our assets are protected. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. And ultimately, in the case in Los Angeles, that judge ruled in the Ninth Circuit, that panel of judges ruled that those troops could remain and that the president was well within his authority to do so. So we are appealing that decision. As you know, we expect a hearing on it pretty quickly, and we're very confident in the president's legal authority to do this, and we're very confident we will win on the merits of the law.
But no local officials that you can point to that have said we need the National Guard? Because I spoke to the police chief of Portland last week. He said that the president's claims just don't match up with what's happening on the ground.
I would encourage you as a reporter to go on the ground and to take a look at it for yourself, because there's been many members of the press not press in this room, but independent journalists, some of whom we'll be inviting to the White House very soon to share their stories, because they have been in the middle of these riots and they have witnessed the anarchy that is taking place night after night. It's on video. You should play it on your show. You have a great opportunity on prime time on CNN to show your audience. Yeah, but you're probably talking to partisan Democrat officials who are opposed to everything this president does. You should also ask the people who live in Portland. We've actually heard from many members of the community who have said that this is complete civil disobedience. It's a mess. It's been loud. It's been troubling for neighbors in the community who are just trying to live peacefully. And these people are not there to peacefully protest. They are there to cause mayhem and havoc.
Yeah, Karoline.
Stephen, go ahead.
Thank you, Karoline. Two questions. First, do you have a reaction to reports that thousands of Cuban troops are deployed alongside Russia fighting in Ukraine? On a very different matter, the president last week floated in an interview with our colleague Daniel from One America a rebate for tariffs of up to $2,000 per person. Is that plan contingent on the Supreme Court's upcoming ruling on the legality of the tariffs, and is the White House preparing for legislation to make that happen?
Sure. On the first point, I have not seen that report, Stephen, but I'll check in with our national security team after this and we'll get you an update. To your second point about the tariff rebates, I think it's an idea that the president has discussed and floated with his team of advisors, but no decision has been firmly made at this point in time. Why don't we go to the back? Owen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
A few days ago, President Trump demanded Jay Jones of Virginia get out of the race for condoning political violence in a text message against a Republican politician a few years ago. He hasn't left the race. He hasn't dropped out. What's the president's reaction?
Well, as you know, I'm not at liberty to discuss political races from the podium. I think the president himself made his position very clear, and I think anyone could agree the messages that were sent by this Democrat nominee for Attorney General in Virginia are really shocking, alarming, and completely unacceptable. He was threatening to kill his opponent and his opponent's children, and that type of rhetoric has zero place in our country, and the president was absolutely right to condemn that.
One more, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. The Democrats have questioned and scrutinized the president's comments about using potentially the military, American cities, as training grounds for the military. And when you look at Portland, Chicago, local and state officials say that their local law enforcement is able to handle the situations, these protests on the ground. The president says that Portland is burning, using that as justification for the National Guard in Portland. But when you look here in Washington, D.C., the president just last week said it is now a completely safe city, and there are still National Guard members on the streets that are not involved in ICE activities. Can you provide the justification for the White House here in Washington, D.C., why the National Guard members continue to be out on the streets?
Because Washington, D.C. has invited the National Guard here. Why? Because the mayor is doing the right thing, unlike mayors in other cities like Portland, as Caitlin and others have pointed out, who refuse to see that there are positive results from when local law enforcement works with federal law enforcement to do the right thing on behalf of their citizens. And Washington, D.C. is no doubt a safer city right now, today, than it was a few months ago when President Trump started this initiative to make D.C. safe again. And the National Guard is still here because the president and the mayor agree that it's a good thing for the city. Just like you're seeing in Memphis, for instance. We'll have National Guard deployed to Memphis. We have federal agents who are on the ground working with state and local law enforcement. The state police in Tennessee are part of this effort. The local metropolitan police in Memphis are part of this effort. State and local law enforcement and federal law enforcement should be working together. And it's a shame that we see in some cities across the country that their mayors are just simply refusing to cooperate because they don't like Donald Trump. And that's what this boils down to. And I don't think any American would disagree that Chicago needs more law enforcement reinforcements, that they need more resources. Look at this headline from over the weekend. At least 30 people shot during the weekend in Democrat-run Chicago. 5 of them were killed in one weekend. This is completely unacceptable, and the president wants to make American cities safer, and he's willing to work with anyone to do it.
If the courts allow you to ultimately send in the National Guard into Chicago and Portland, do Democrats not have reason to be concerned that there are long-term plans by this administration to keep U.S. military or the National Guard in American cities, like what we're seeing here in Washington.
Why should they be concerned about the federal government offering help to make their cities a safer place? They should be concerned about this. They should be concerned about the fact that people in their cities right now are being gunned down every single night. And the president, all he's trying to do is fix it. And there has been a complete smear campaign by the Democrats and the media, quite frankly. I was reading Political Playbook this morning, one of the most inside the Beltway newsletters you can find. And you guys are framing this like the president wants to take over the American cities with the military. The president wants to help these local leaders who have been completely ineffective in securing their own cities. And we have already seen there's a positive formula for that. Look at Washington, D.C. The murder rate has declined significantly. Our streets are safer. People who live here feel safer. All of you in this room, I know you do, you just won't admit it. And it's a proven system that works, and the president wants to make America's cities safe again. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions, if I may.
Because the mayor wants them. Michael.
These talks in Egypt, if Hamas does agree to relinquish power and give it up, cede power to this transitional technocratic government, if that does happen, would the Trump administration then recognize a Palestinian state?
Look, I don't want to get ahead of the technical talks right now, Michael. They're extremely sensitive. They're taking place, again, as we speak, and there's a lot of, there's many things to discuss, of course. This is, hopefully, we expect and we hope, going to be one of the greatest peace deals this world has ever seen. And the Trump administration is working diligently and working very hard to get there. And as I said, Friday, all terms agreed. We have the Arab countries who are working with us. Of course, Israel has been incredible in cooperating with the president's plan and agreeing to it. And we're very hopeful, and we expect that to continue.
You tweeted about this over the weekend.
Thank you. I was going to you in the blue shirt and tie.
Thank you,
yes,
Caroline.
You're welcome.
The Daily Mail. Today, the Supreme Court declined to hear Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal. Will Trump rule out granting her clemency? Is that something the White House is considering?
It's not something I've heard discussed, and we don't comment on clemency requests that may or may not have been made, but I'm certainly not tracking that one at this point in time.
Caroline.
Jordan, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. So we're talking about these radical groups in Portland and Chicago. I know the president has spoken about potentially going after George Soros with RICO charges and for funding all of this violence. Has there been any update on that? And also, is the administration looking into the other nonprofits, maybe taking away their 501c3 status for funding this violence? And one more question.
Sure. The financial backing of these groups, particularly Antifa, is certainly something the administration is looking into aggressively. And the federal government has never really been mobilized or tasked with doing that. So we're kind of kickstarting that into gear. The FBI is working on it alongside the White House's Homeland Security Task Force. We have our intelligence community looking into this as well. And even the Secretary of Treasury is involved with these matters since they are financial in nature. And we will continue to get to the bottom of who is funding these organizations in this organized anarchy against our country and our government. It's a question the American people have been begging the answer for many years, and we're committed to uncovering it. And when we do, I'm sure you'll be one of the first people to know.
Separately, Caroline.
Thank you. So Gaza, under the president's plan, is going to be governed by a transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts. Now, given how radicalized the Palestinian population is in Gaza and in the West Bank, can you offer some insight or guidance into who are some of these Palestinians that are going to be considered for leadership roles in Gaza, and where you're going to be finding them, and do you have any names?
We're not quite there yet, Jonathan. The president believes peace is possible in Gaza, and that's why he presented this detailed and comprehensive plan. The first step of that is securing a ceasefire and releasing the hostages, and then those conversations about ensuring a durable and lasting peace can continue. But what do you need to have peace in a region like Gaza that's been war-torn for far too long? You need security guarantees, and you need good governance. And so those will be two of the priorities that this administration is focused on.
If I may, the president has said he wants the government to reopen this week in a deal. What's going to happen by the end of the week if there's no deal? What's the White House prepared to do?
With no deal with what?
To reopen the government.
Look, as I said, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of pain inflicted. There already is on the American public, on our troops who are not being paid, again, on women and young children who depend on critical food assistance. We hate to see this. And in fact, the Office of Management and Budget is trying to do everything they can to find funds to get out the door for these vulnerable populations in our country. Again, we shouldn't be having to do that. The Democrats have a chance to change course tonight. I believe the vote's taking place at 6:30, and we urge Democrat senators to vote to reopen the government and to do the right thing. Thanks, guys.
It's a lot of topics hit, clearly putting the onus of the shutdown on the Democrat Party. But, I mean, what do you guys think? Is that something that the Democrats own? Is that something that is shared a little bit? Let me put the number up here. Give it a few minutes with, where'd the number thing go? All right, there we go. If you want to share your thoughts on what we just heard, some of the clips from earlier today, give it a call. Call in. I will give you a few minutes. You could express your thoughts. Don't have to argue. But I am interested in giving people an opportunity to, voice their thoughts and talk about things that are important to them. This being one of them. Let me bring up my background. So a couple of thoughts on topics that we could kind of run through here. Let me get the image up here. Oh yeah, it took over, didn't it? It took over completely. I'm gonna try and make this the right size here. See if it'll. Can you see that, or is it too small? I wonder if that's too small. I don't know. Let me go scoot over here. If I scoot over here, maybe you could see it still. I don't know. Actually, I could pull it up on my phone. And I could judge for myself. Is that too small of a sign? All right, let's see. Go skip to the live. Hey, I can see that pretty well. That's pretty good. Pretty good. All right. So 2 topics, if you want to call in. Numbers on the screen there. Just give me a call. Let me know what you think. Give you a little time on air. Let me make sure that I got the phone. Here. All right, let's put that over here. So, government shutdown wise, let's take a look at the chat. See what people are talking about here. Deflecting from the Epstein files. What are you talking about? Sam, don't talk about yourself. I don't even know if I want to go back up to see what you're referencing there. The call in. Are you affected personally by the government shutdown? Want to tell folks what that's doing for you? Are you not affected? And does it seem like maybe things are operating as business as usual? Maybe there's some additional wiggle room to cut things. I don't know. I think those are the 2 sides of the story right now. And looking at the poll, it looks like the folks wanting it to stop immediately has jumped up. It was the minority, but now it's the majority at 53% on the poll. About 1,000 votes coming in. So I appreciate you guys chiming in on that. Well, that's interesting. So what do you guys think? We talked about earlier outsourcing, the impact on wage growth that it's had, the massive impact it's had on wage growth, effectively limiting what happens at this middle layer that continues to get squeezed. And it's not just for manufacturing jobs, because honestly, they say they're going to bring back manufacturing, but it's not going to be one-to-one. A facility that has 1,000 workers in a low-class geography coming back It's not going to be 1,000 here. There'll be a lot more automation because they're building it from the ground up. A lot more automation, robotics, so forth. And so, I mean, does 15% come back, 20%? The big issue now is the STEM roles that are being outsourced. And so we have kids. This is the part I didn't get to earlier. We have these kids that we told, Gen Z, millennials, hey, go out and pursue degree programs at these very pricey universities. Go into math, go be a data scientist, go do this and that. And as they enter the workforce, they either can't find an opportunity, or once they found one, they're actually getting displaced because their job is very quickly being sent overseas. And that's not a recipe for success because we're not keeping that capability within the United States. It becomes a national security issue. I mean, who's going to dream up the next innovation? Who's going to be there to design, to direct anything? You're going to become heavily reliant on external, on leadership that comes from outside of the country. Like, we will not be the ones that are innovating anymore. I mean, that's the direction that we're headed with this if it's not corrected here. And so that's the imbalance where, from a market position, we have to rebalance things. Otherwise, this is headed down a path that I don't think anyone intended for it to go down. So anyway, call in if you got any thoughts on that as well. And, talking about the student loans, I see a lot of kids out there as part of, the protests, the antisocial behavior, as the English like to call it, exhibiting antisocial behavior, causing all kinds of problems. What's driving them to feel this way, right? It's because of that opportunity being taken away from them. They were told to do the right thing. They did the right thing, at least conventional wisdom, and then rug got pulled out from under them. There's no role, no opportunity for them when they get out of college. I have this degree in mathematics. I'm an engineer, but there's nothing for me. I thought that was supposed to be a sure bet. And now they've got a massive student loan that's hanging over their heads as well. And we have our first caller. Let's see who it is. Hey, caller, thanks for calling in.
Hi.
How's it going this late evening? Unless it's morning for you.
No, I'm in Seattle.
All right.
10:42. Where you at?
I'm in Texas. So yeah, I'm getting to the point where I might just fall over asleep pretty soon.
Yeah, Texas. Okay, that's cool. Where at in Texas?
I'm in the Houston area.
Okay.
So what?
Austin area?
No.
So like I'm in the heart of the liberal area.
Okay. Yeah. How's that going?
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. These days. I'm 42 years old. I used to be involved in all that stuff back during Barack Obama's days, which is after his term. I kind of started to be ousted out of that party because I was like leaning towards more of a right ideology. Party went real left. Behind.
Did you feel that your positions or ideas changed, or that the environment kind of changed around you? Like you're saying, things moved further left. Like, was it more one or the other?
There's both in a lot of ways, to be honest. And because for me, just being a young person, somebody once told me when I was studying accounting in college, when you're young, you're a liberal. And then when you get older, you become a Republican and you start having to pay taxes.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny at the time, but then I paid much taxes in my life, to be honest. So that wasn't actually the true point for me. It was more of a reality check as far as hoping that they'll have a better chance in life.
Yeah. So do you think it's a problem right now, how things are kind of shaping up, where so many, I guess, jobs, one of the topics here, are being sent overseas, and it seems like they're targeting the positions that would have otherwise went to, kids coming out of college, say with, up to like, say, 5 years of experience?
Of the same, as far as I can tell, because these aren't new policies. It's just something that America's been doing for a long time. I mean, it started. These are the problems that you're talking about. Those were problems that were happening, beforehand with the Clintons sending tons of jobs overseas, and then it was before them too. History repeats itself. We only live so long, so we only remember so much. But history repeats itself, and sending jobs overseas and businesses making massive amounts of profits by using the cheapest labor possible, and economically, like taking goods from going to countries where people don't have any rights and taking all their natural resources, enslaving them through the colonial kind of like it's a very old practice.
Yeah, it's been going on 30, 40 years at a minimum. And the thing that's
It's been going on for hundreds of years.
Yeah, you probably could go look back. The thing that's been a little bit different.
Somebody would probably argue it's been going on for thousands.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's different this time, though.
There's people in power that are very connected with old riches that date back to, I don't want to say Adam and Eve, but I mean, it dates back to as far as man had power over another man. Ever since man has dominated man to their harm.
Yeah.
It dates back to that.
Yeah.
Ever since man has dominated another man to that man's harm for their profit is when it started. So it's like, go back to that.
Yeah.
That's really far back. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a problem. I've reached out to, I guess, my representatives, gotten some level of response back from them. But I'm seeing more and more, like, the H-1B visa thing that was pushed out. I think that's like a step towards it. There's the HIRE Act. I don't remember the senator's name in Ohio now, but senator from Ohio proposed the HIRE Act, which I think poses a 25% tax on the revenues that go out of the country, or what gets paid to a foreign entity that is part of outsourcing, kind of increasing that fee associated with it. So there's things that are coming up now all of a sudden that wasn't really a reality in the past, which I think is kind of interesting because it's under the idea of America first, but in all honesty, say 10, 15 years ago, this would have been considered a liberal policy.
Yeah, we see that a lot. That, like a lot of things that Trump is saying that causes such inflammatory language and hate is stuff that Democrats were saying just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, it's interesting, but at the same time, it's like a much deeper thing that I'm trying to get you to to understand, which is that the fact that, you know, man will continue to dominate man to their harm as long as there's wickedness in this world. And, you know, we try to get involved, right, and try to make good policies to try to curb the wickedness, to hold people accountable, right, and try to, you know, empower the people who are given a fair try, you know, those who are in a position to, like, have hope. We want to empower those people, you know, and create advocates of, you know, human empowerment, of individualism, of, you know, this American ideal of having people who are, you know, empowered and moving forward in a way that's like empowering others.
Yeah.
Not this group mentality.
I don't think it's not going to work out for everybody. The thing though for me is I want to make sure that the system is at least functioning in a way that if, you know, people really gave it a shot, and maybe they'll fail a few times, but they could make it work out for themselves to better, or, you know, they have a chance. Because right now, as it keeps getting stacked up between inflation, wage growth not keeping up with things, you start compiling that stuff, it's things are getting pretty stacked on folks. And the stock market keeps going up though, and it's like you scratch your head like, why is that?
I'm sorry, made a noise when you said that. Things are getting what?
No, I'm sorry, I missed what you asked.
No, you were saying, I was listening to you talk, and then my phone was like, battery low.
Oh, gotcha.
What are you talking?
Oh, well, what I was just trying to say that, yeah, there's been inflation that's hit people hard. Wage growth has not kept up over time. And so the system itself is not functioning. There's some disconnect there because you see those factors. Surveys have come out where they say that 50% of the people that were surveyed say they have difficulty paying their rent month to month, and that a quarter of those people skip meals regularly so that they can pay their rent. And you just like scratch your head like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like the economy's doing that good. Why is the stock market at all-time highs? And it's because of this disconnect that the, you know, asset prices were artificially kind of boosted, right, through a number of things. And so that needs to get corrected some way. There has to be a rebalancing of it.
I mean, you could argue that it's an economic problem, like you're talking about assets, and like, you know, it could be a question of whether it's, you know, macroeconomics versus microeconomics or whatever, policy, which is like major separation between the Democratic and the Conservative Party for the longest time. Supply versus demand, you know, which side do you believe that demand leads to supply or supply leads to demand, you know? And There's always been an argument about whether you stimulate the government to get, you know, what you want or you don't, you know? It's a very big differences between the, but I mean, at the same time, the parties are the same. I mean, we understand these things in these kind of like these terms as far as what we're told and what we're taught. Like we understand it in these frames where if you are able to like realize that the problem is not a philosophical problem or a theological problem or an economic problem, it's a problem of mankind, you know, it's man, like we are the problem.
Yeah. So I mean, it's always going to be fallible. Yeah. I think the human part of it's always going to be a problem. I'm trying to think of how do we like make a system that as will have to continue to be monitored and updated, but how do we make a system that makes it the best scenario possible for people? Because like when they say they're cutting healthcare, right? They're actually not, nobody's actually cutting healthcare. They just added a work requirement. And based on historical data, when you add work requirements, there's a certain percentage that will not meet it. And so it's like a very indirect type thing, and they're taking advantage of human nature on that, right? So there's, if we can make the system function in such a way that we believe it is, giving an equal opportunity to folks, I think that's the best I could ask for. And I don't think things are stacked up in that way. And it may have actually gotten worse post-COVID. Things accelerated with inflation and everything.
The whole thing was planned, brother. You gotta understand, like, all these events that happened, the COVID, the wars that have happened, like every big thing that has happened where there's major millionaires, billionaires brought in, and like all these new policy changes, and people were completely distracted. All those things are planned. Like there is a plan at hand. There's people who are very well aware of what's going on. They're holding the dice, and you're playing the game, and you're asking the questions in the framework that they've given you. And the and the news, both sides, is controlled by them. So the questions we're asking is within that framework. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha. There's
it's totally rigged. So,
yeah.
But what I'm trying to tell you is, like, what year is it right now? I'm not asking you in like a hypothetical way. It's 2025. I know that.
Yeah.
But I'm asking you, like, what year is it? Why is it 2025? What happened in year zero? Who came? In year zero.
You still with me?
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying, like, what year is it, right? It's 2025, right?
Yep.
Why is it 2025? What happened in year zero?
Well, most calendars, Western ones, run off of birth of Christ.
Who came, right? In year zero.
Right, birth of Christ.
Right. And he showed something. He taught something. Something so revolutionary that it stopped time, in essence, and restarted it. And what did he show us? He showed that people can rise from death. He showed us that there's a government coming that will crush all governments. Crush them like dust. And his government will come, and he will reign. And he will be the Prince of Peace. And the peace on earth will be abundant.
Yeah.
But what time are we living in now, then? What time is this? This is the time of where men will be lovers of what? Themselves. They'll be haughty. They'll be blasphemous. Disobedient to parents. You were talking about kids these days with the media. What's going on with them, with their jobs, with their hope, with their future. You know? This is all hope. It's history, right? I mean, but it's also prophetic. We know it because it's so true. Like in this day and age that we're living in, we see it, we witness it with our eyes. You can't look at creation, the mountains and the ozone system and the Earth's rotation and the stars of the universe and our placement and everything and not say that there is a creator.
Yeah. I appreciate you, man. Hey, listen, man. I appreciate you calling in and getting things kicked off here.
I hope your job goes well. Yeah.
Which I was like, did I talk about a job? I can't even remember. It's getting late, but I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Late, yeah.
Thanks for calling in.
All right.
All right.
Love you, brother.
You take care.
I hope you don't get too. I hope you don't get too discouraged by the whole thing that's going on here.
No. It's. I think the idea here is that we get people to think and talk. is the bottom line. So that's encouraging that people are doing that. And I could see
Yeah,
him in the live
no,
chat doing
no,
that right now.
It's so difficult, in this time that we're living in, that we become so polarized, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but it's just part of the enemy's plan. He wants to divide people. He wants to divide and conquer, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want people discussing things with him. He wants us to be in fear of one another, just in fear in general.
Yeah.
And I was watching your video that you put on, and I'm listening to this woman. I'm just like, man, that's so crazy, dude. Because I don't remember people in the political sector not having the ability to speak in a way that calms people.
Yeah.
Despite what's going on. I mean, when we were going through the Russian crisis, you know what I mean? Like, and kids were hiding under their desks, practicing drills.
Mm-hmm.
And even the people on the news and political sector were brave and calm and communicating. And everybody was like very quick to listen and slow to speak and trying to do their best, right?
Yeah.
These days, man.
A lot of that stuff is it's not the culture anymore for some reason. But, yeah, it's just not the culture for some reason anymore. I don't know why. It's a little strange.
Well, they did a research recently, like a research on people's attention span.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't like a new research. They've been doing the same research for years, but they've realized that people's attention span has decreased and decreased and decreased over the last, So that could have something to do with it.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, you take care. I appreciate you.
Well, have a good night.
All right.
Have
Bye.
football. Bye.
So, interested in getting other perspectives out there. We're talking government shutdown, talking about outsourcing of jobs. See what you guys think out there. If I could figure out how to change my background music, I would right now, but I'm afraid I'm going to mess something up. And thank you to, I forgot who was on chat. Thank you to whomever was on chat that mentioned the caller's audio was messed up initially. I was able to hopefully get that fixed up. Probably took a little bit too long, but appreciate y'all sticking with me there through that. Hey, Carol Majors, thanks for jumping in here. So I don't know, guys. Is the shutdown affecting? Ooh, it's going up a little bit more, 54% now. Say that the shutdown should stop immediately versus 46. It was the other way around not that long ago, but looks like more folks are changing the poll there. All right. Well, absent any more callers, I think I might close this out. Appreciate you guys sticking with me and listen to the press briefing. We've got interesting things coming up through the rest of the week. One thing that I'm focusing on, as the jobs reports should have been coming out, what's gonna be the consequence of that if some of that data starts to get changed? It's not the first time. There have been many other instances where the government changes the formula for how they calculate something, whether it's unemployment or what have you. Like it was done during the Obama administration, it was done through many of them. But what is that going to do over time that the definition of these things has changed so much? Is it really going to be an accurate indicator? But I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Like, subscribe. Let's chat again pretty soon here. And I appreciate everybody who has donated a little bit tonight or in the past. I'm licensing my news content to bring to you guys. So you saw we had a little bit of early footage of what was going on in the press room. It's all licensed. trying not to do the bad thing with copyright, but also give a little bit better access to folks as to what's really going on behind the scenes. So we'll close it out with the theme song. All right, good night, everyone.
The words of the liar's mouth, causing their followers doubt. One voice shouts above the crowd, the message of political cow. Conspiracies abound inside their twisted sound. One voice shouts above the crowd, message of political cow. Political cow. Their lies are on the ground. Fake news is breaking down at the sound of political cow. Followers of a false belief, subject to endless grief. She helps to bring them relief. The influence of political cow. All your community loves you. We know that your heart is true. We would be lost without you. The influence of political cow.